So we are here today at Omnipack, a company that was born a few years ago and is growing really fast in Poland. In a nutshell, what Omnipack is doing is that they are helping customers to streamline all the logistics and warehousing processes. And I had the honor of interviewing Tomek Kasperski, who's the CEO and founder of Omnipack. You know, has an incredible breadth of experience in working in digital commerce, former West Wing director. I hope you enjoyed this interview, some high-level thought leadership on what's going on in Poland, digital commerce and logistics. Enjoy.
So Omnipack is a fulfillment platform for mid-size European e-commerce businesses. So what does that mean? In a nutshell, is that we take care of logistics for our clients who are typically mid-size, so doing somewhere between 1,000 and 20,000 orders per month. The reason why we do it is because of my past experience in e-commerce, where I was responsible for building an e-commerce business from scratch, and where we had to figure out all the issues, nuts and bolts related to building logistics, which is actually very difficult, right? Because you need to solve many complex problems that require from you, on one hand, expertise. That's really still not common in the market because not many people know how to do proper e-commerce logistics. But on the other hand, it also requires a lot of capex because you need to get a warehouse, you need to fit it in with infrastructure, you need to invest into a system and so on and so forth. So the idea for us was to change this big and complex problem and change this capex decision that many companies need to make into an OPEX decision. So this is also kind of a trend right now, right? When you look at Amazon Web Services, what they're doing, they're saying, okay, now you don't need to invest in your own servers, you just pay per use. And this is what we're doing for logistics. So this is a very young market indeed. So when you look at all the e-commerces, all the sizes, what you see is there are the big players, and they have very professional infrastructure because the scale enables them to have really high level of sophistication and automation. And then if you look at the smaller players, actually very many of them are unsophisticated. So when someone starts a business, they will typically do it from their flat, from garage, so very basic infrastructure, and then even when they move up, it's still going to be some basic facilities, right? So that's where we come in to actually help what we call it crossing the death valley. So exactly the moment between doing something very unprofessional and going to the point where you have nicely automated and professionalized warehouse. So we're still in the very early phases, right? If you really look like top down, the e-commerce market itself is still quite young. Maybe it's not like a newborn, but it's still a toddler. So the first wave was for the companies to actually start selling online and just establishing this as a channel. What we're seeing right now is the second wave of professionalization, where it's not good enough that you just deliver, because when you look at Polish or even European landscape like 5 or 7 years ago, no one expected that you would get a delivery in 1 or 2 days, and if there was an issue, well, that was part of life. So what we're seeing right now is this huge pressure, and the pressure is driven by the big players, by Zalando, by Amazon, to make logistics actually a competitive advantage, so that the customer experience is so good that you just want to repeat and repeat e-commerce purchases. So now that we have this push towards professionalization, this is where that's the reason for us to exist, because our job is to help those small companies make this step, and it's really super early. Like even if we look at the US market. The businesses similar to ours have been created there like 3 or 4 years ago. So even in that developed market, it's still a fresh thing. Well, one of the key trends that we're seeing is the push towards much shorter product cycles and much thinner stocks. And what that means is, like several years ago, when someone would put a product on the market, they would build a huge inventory of that product, and then they would be selling it over several seasons. Right now what companies do is they innovate much faster, and they push much shorter runs, they produce much shorter runs of products. And this also has a huge implication for logistics, because it means it's not like you just make a one inbound and then you're happy for a whole season. You actually need to inbound the products constantly, and the products are different every time. And sort of a extreme of that is something that's called cross-docking, where we have clients that actually own no or minimum stock, and everything that they sell to their customers is actually they order at their suppliers only after the purchase is made, which means in the morning the product gets to our warehouse, and then in the afternoon it already leaves because there is a client waiting for that. So I think that's the major push towards really being able to turn around many SKUs, many products, very short stocks, single items, and done on a very short time frame. So always when you're looking at a new trend, the biggest barrier, the biggest problem is the legacy solution. And that's the same with e-commerce. So if you have a business that has been selling B2B, they have systems that are built for that, and they have processes built for that. And what e-commerce requires is this huge attention to detail, because you're not handling pallets, you're not even handling inner boxes, like 20 pieces of same product. You're just handling single items, and then you're handling orders that can be between 1 item and 100 items, and you're handling different levels of personalization, because for one shop they will only look at the price and they want very minimum. The luxury brand will require a lot of care given to how the product is packaged. So the biggest challenge is really there to adjust the IT systems, because as you probably know right now everything runs on software. So even if you have a great idea, you need to make sure that the system will be able to really make it happen. And then you need to adjust your operations so that there is this care towards the product. So as what we say is, like, for B2C logistics, there is no statistics. Because if you're doing B2B and 0.5% of your orders has some issues, well, I mean, no one will notice. If you're doing B2C, that means very specific, very concrete clients who are going to be unhappy, and then they will let the world know that they weren't handled properly. So indeed, we've recently raised 5 million zloty to grow further. First of all, we will use the money to invest further in our product. So what do I mean by our product is, first of all, our logistics operations, because to grow we need to open new warehouses. We're opening one in 2 weeks, a new one in 2 weeks. Then we need to fit it in with infrastructure, with some level of automation. Second area where we're investing is software. So we're now ramping up our own team of software developers who will make sure that the product we have is tailored to our specific business model. And the third area where we're investing is the whole after-sales process and team. So this is everything that has to do with effectively onboarding new clients and then taking care of them during the whole cooperation. One of the big topics for the upcoming year for us is going to be to expand internationally. So this is something that we've just recently started. As you probably know, here in Poland we are located in a perfect spot to be a center for fulfillment for Europe. So we are located quite centrally, so Germany is very close, Scandinavia is close, Benelux is still within a reasonable freight time. On the other hand, the labor costs are much lower, so we have this huge cost advantage. So for that reason, we're now starting our international expansion, and we hope that within the next 3 to 6 months, we're already going to see some results of that. Well, actually, if you look at the fulfillment landscape in Europe, the way it looks like is more and more companies are moving their fulfillment operations to Poland. But these companies are typically German or Scandinavian companies because of the physical proximity, right? So what makes sense is just to have your fulfillment center here and all the handling operations done here, and then every day your products are being shipped by what's called a line haul to your destination country, and then shipped just like a normal local parcel. So this is the trend that we also want to participate in. Right now, it's only the big companies that are taking advantage of that. So Amazon has already several facilities in Poland. Zalando is building, I think, a third one. So that's a big trend. So I think it's really great to make an event that's a bit exclusive, so that you've made sure that the participants are really the ones that are really interested in the topic, and then just making sure that the content is also relevant. I think that's the mix that you need to make an event like that a success. Nice venue in the heart in Warsaw Spire didn't hurt, as well as delicious food. So overall, great event. I think for us the next year is going to be a lot of hard work with scaling the operations, so investing in all the areas of our product and then expanding internationally. My name is Tomek Kasperski and I'm from Omnipack.